Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Krupa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Vireshwarananda Dayamrutabdhim Shri Ranganathancha Vijnana Bhanum Chidananda Rupa Shri Purushottamaryam Dhyayan Hrudisthan Krutinam Hyavaimi. My brother Swami Vireshanandaji, brother Swami Paramanandanathaji, sister Julia ji, and all other men of standing respect, veneration associated with this grand temple from this local area, and sisters and brothers. Sanatana Dharma, in two perspectives, they have asked me to speak about. How well Sanatana Dharma can contribute for world peace. That is one perspective. The second one is, have there been any sciences at all in the body of the literature that we see associated with this great Sanatana Dharma? Has it in any way contributed for the science that the present day generation is so much fascinated to know about? Science is a term that is so fascinating for the modern generation. Unless you explain anything on scientific lines, hardly they lend their attention. Fine, that's good. It's a welcome sign, and one should be so. Friends, remember, Sanatana Dharma, not only in conventional sense, in every sense, the root of all truths, the source, the origin of all truths, be it truths pertaining to the world outside, the nature outside, or truths pertaining to the nature inside. Truth is one. You cannot compartmentalize truth as external truth or internal truth. You can only say truth pertaining to the external world or the external nature, and truth pertaining to internal nature or internal world. But truth itself is a unified entity. That is one. Truth is one because it is absolute. Truth is not with respect to any other thing, that it suffers that status of being a relative. Everything else is relative. Truth alone is not relative. This is one of the themes of theory of relativity put forth by Einstein. Everything else, the whole creation, is relative. Now the obvious question that arises is, what is it relative to? Relative to what? Whole creation is relative. That itself has got half the answer that we can expect for the question, relative to what? What is not within creation is the one with respect to which the creation is relative. What is not in the creation? So much of subtlety is involved in answering this question. Deeply you have to go into subtleties of physics, but Vedanta explains it in a much simpler language. Even a village lady knows the term Maaya. What to do? We are in the grips of Maya. Such statements, now and then you hear from even the mouths of most ordinary people, common people in India. What to do? I know I should not be in the house anymore. This is the age when I have to step out of my house and be involving myself in spiritual practices, this, that and all that. But what to do? Something binds me back. It's Maya. The term Maya invariably or very commonly is something that is being spelt out by the commonest of the men or women in the Indian framework. Remember, by saying so, by using the term Maya, they are drawing our attention to something very subtle which neither they know nor we know. Maya is the one that is the framework for the absolute to become relative. Absolute has become relative. Absolute itself has become relative in one sense. According to non-dual philosophy, Advaita Vedanta, absolute has become relative. It is in the subjective sense. Absolute appears as relative. Absolute remains as absolute. But when you want to know of it, when the process of knowing creeps in, absolute does not appear as absolute. If you don't want to see it, if there is nothing like the seer, the seen, and the process of seeing, then absolute remains as absolute. You want to perceive absolute, then the question of its being perceived and there being a perceiver will come. Whenever you make the absolute as an object of perception, either in the form of seeing it, or in the form of hearing about it, or in the form of touching it, whenever you want to make it as an object of perception, it doesn't remain absolute at all anymore. This is a peculiar and a very mysterious process that is there in the epistemology pertaining to the term absolute. Because to see something, the seer and the seen both must be within one framework, within one limitation. They can't be absolute. There cannot be two absolutes. And there cannot be anything like one remaining absolute and the other remaining relative. In any process of perception, you cannot have two absolutes, one absolute trying to perceive the other absolute. It's impossible. Two absolutes cannot be there, just as two infinities cannot be there. After all, absolute and infinity, they are synonyms only. And there cannot be anything like the absolute is being seen by the relative. It is equally impossible. Because when you acknowledge the presence of absolute somewhere, either at the position of the perceiver or in the position of what is being perceived, then remember, the relative will get swallowed by the absolute, because when absolute is there, there cannot remain anything beyond its pale. There is nothing beyond for the absolute. The concept of there being anything beyond will be applicable only for the relative, or not for the absolute. There is nothing beyond absolute. If there is anything beyond absolute, it doesn't remain absolute at all. It is self-contradictory. But still, absolute is being perceived. How it is being perceived? Logically, that cannot be perceived. But absolute voluntarily puts itself into the influence of its own power, which is peculiar, something unknowable, and that power is called as Maya. What is the difference between clay and the pot? One can easily say this is the difference. But strictly speaking, there is no difference. Pot is not just clay. Suppose if I ask any of you here, please go and bring one pot. You don't go and bring a lump of clay. If you bring a lump of clay instead, you will be charged. Afterwards, you will charge me. So I mean, only a few minutes ago you said both are one and the same. Then what is that additional entity that is added up to clay for making it pot? There is some additional entity. There is. How it is, you cannot explain. You cannot explain how it is, but there is. Clay plus something, x, you can say. Clay plus x is equal to part. So mathematically, if you take out clay from the part, nothing should remain, but x remains. How do you account for the existence of x at all? X is equal to 0. When x is equal to 0, nothing is added to clay for making it part. Nothing is added according to mathematical calculations. Something is added according to experience. What to go by? Should we go by logic or should we go by the experience? This is the greatest question that is put forth by all schools of philosophy except Advaitic school, the non-dualistic school. How do you account for that x? What is the nature of that x? Inexplainable, but at the same time undeniable for its existence. You can never say anything about it. Equally, you cannot deny its existence either. Acharya Shankara puts forth this so beautifully. Way back in the 8th century itself, a 16-year-old boy comes out with a valid, beautiful, and eternally acceptable explanation. He sheds light upon the nature of this Maya. Sannapi, asannapi, ubhayatmika no. Neither you can say it is, nor you can say it is not. Nor you can say it is in between. Sannapi, asannapi, ubhayatmika no. Sangapi, anangapi, ubhayatmika no. Neither you can say it has any mass, nor you can say it doesn't have, nor you can say it is in between. Bhinnapi, abhinnapi, ubhyatmika no. Neither you can say it is one whole, nor you can say it is made of parts, nor you can say it is in between. Then what is its nature? Mahadbhuta, anirvachaniya rupa, inexplainable. Inexplainable. Remember, if this Maya is not there, absolute will remain absolute and there is no creation. Strictly speaking, the building material for the creation, to put it in the modern language of modern science, is this Maya only, or absolute, acting as relative. Absolute, imposing upon himself the characteristic of relative. He cannot impose, but without getting imposed with the characteristics of something relative, characteristics of something finite, creation can never take place. Because creation can take place only as a mass or a collection of so many finite entities, and keeping infinite as infinite, no creation can ever take place, because infinite as absolute is immutable or unchangeable. The raw material can never get converted, raw material, the Brahman, can never get converted into the end product, the creation. Because Brahman, absolute infinite, is immutable, unchangeable. This is the dilemma that bothered scientists working for quantum physics for about nearly 50 years. In 1920s or 1930s, there were two groups. And remember, the dilemma could be solved only with the help of Indian philosophy. This is where all our serious attention must be turned towards how much of subtle science is contained in Vedanta, unfortunately, which we know not. Vedanta is not a speculative philosophy, not a product of speculation. The subtlest naram, the subtlest methodology for knowing the truth. Beyond Vedanta, there is no science. Only about 3 months ago, while talking on some occasion under the auspices of Hariharapura Shankaracharya, all the three of us were there. He is observing his Chaturmasya in Bangalore. We were all invited to take part in some program that was scheduled for some day, and we too were given an opportunity to say a few words. In the course of my conversation, it was a Shankaracharya, but anyway, I wanted to expound the greatness of this man in his contribution for unfolding so many truths which otherwise we would never have been able to. This definition of Maya never came as detailed as he gave. Rigveda refers to this word Maya. Indra always uses his power of Maya, Rigveda says. Krishna uses it several times. Mayanta prakritim vidyat, Mayinantu maheshwaram is an important statement in Bhagavad Gita. But nobody gave the convincing explanation for as to what at all is meant by Maya. Here is the great man that gave. While expounding his contribution, in the course of my talk, I said, modern science either is getting assisted, getting guided by Acharya's commentary, or modern science has to simply sleep. It has no function to do at all. It remains defunct, practically dead. So the building material of the universe, to discuss about it, how many conferences took place from the scientist side. Copenhagen Conference, the most notable of which is Copenhagen Conference. The whole community of scientists were divided into two groups, Einstein's group and Niels Bohr's group. It was Niels Bohr's disciple, Heisenberg, who came out with the conclusion that the building material of the universe, called it a particle, called it a wave, or whatever you want, you cannot define it. It is undefinable. It evades any definition. You cannot define the building material of the universe. All these days we were calling electron, we were calling orbital, orbit, quantum numbers, principle, azimuthal, this, that and all that. They are all okay as far as names are concerned, but the exact nature of the building material of the universe is totally evasive, and scientific community is unable to say anything, at which Albert Einstein got very much furious, with his eyebrows raised in Copenhagen Conference, staring at Heisenberg, a very young scientist who was in early 30s or in late 20s. Einstein started charging him. Heisenberg, you mean God is playing dice? Everything is definite in his creation. Nothing is enigmatic. God is not playing dice. But what to do? Here is Heisenberg's observation, which not only Einstein, none could deny. To the rescue of the disciple, the Guru came. Niels Bohr came. Equally, he looked at Einstein and said, in all the stern voice that he could muster, okay, then, Mr. Einstein, that is neither it is none of our business to dictate to God as to how he must run the universe. That was the reply that was given by Niels Bohr. Remember, as long as Einstein was alive, this row could never be settled. No one could settle this. It remained an enigmatic $1 million question looming large before every scientist. Equally, Heisenberg was adamant that he would never modify his observation. But how at all you will modify truth? Either you have to do injustice to truth, or you have to remain adamant. No sensible man would compromise with the truth. Be he a scientist, be he a saint, be he a common man. Compromising with the truth is a veritable death. It is a suicide. Now and then I say it in Karnataka. There are so many punishments for killing a person. What is the punishment for killing truth? A civilized society should punish a man who kills truth more fiercely, more ruthlessly than a person who kills people, human beings. Alas, we don't have any set of punishments for such people, and therefore, ostentatiously, they go on killing truths, just as they are doing with the history of India. Always trumpeting Aryans came from outside. Supposed to be the most foolish statement a human being can ever make. Aryans came from outside India. So, there was a row. It became a big headache. Neither Heisenberg could keep quiet as regards this, and he consulted almost every man known for his intellectual caliber, and he turned to Rabindranath Tagore. This incident took place somewhere in 1930s, but most of the people don't know, though it is almost a century after this incident took place. A century has elapsed, but none of us, or most of us, don't know. But here is one beautiful indicator for telling you all, for telling ourselves about how grand Indian Vedanta is, Indian philosophy is. Vedas are, how grand the Vedas are. Ultimately, Vedas gave the answer for this enigmatic question, $1 million question. The attention was turned to Rabindranath Tagore, who assured Heisenberg that he was knocking at the door of exact science. Yes, Mr. Heisenberg, it is now that modern physics is approaching truth. Dalton said something, Rutherford said something, so many other people went on telling so many things. One fellow said it is particle, the other fellow said it is wave, the third fellow said it is sometimes wave and sometimes it is a particle. All these varying statements, observations went on, coming from the scientific community, putting the whole mankind into a bit of confusion about what exactly is the nature of this building material. Can science talk in such a language where you have no certainty at all? One group saying one thing and the other group saying something that is totally hostile to it almost, or antithetical at least, and the other group saying or striking a point in between these two. Truth cannot be of variance. Truth cannot be fallacious. Truth cannot be anything for any person. Rabindranath Tagore consoled the young scientist and said, it is now you are knocking at the door of truth. Yes, the building material of the universe is such that you have to say it is uncertain. Your uncertainty principle, Mr. Heisenberg, is perfectly on the lines of truth. What was uncertainty principle? Building material, if you say it is particle, its position, its mass, its position, and its velocity cannot be simultaneously known. Its position, its velocity cannot be simultaneously known. And if you go to nuclear physics, particle physics, unless you know the position and velocity of something very accurately, you can never know anything about it. Remember, knowingly or unknowingly, Shankara puts a statement which appears almost, which appears as almost the Sanskrit translation of what the particular statement of Heisenberg is. Acharya says, Sthiti Gatyopi Ekatraha Asambhavat. The Sthiti and Gati simultaneously cannot be known. So accurate, so perfect translation, so much striking resemblance between Acharya's statement and the observation of Heisenberg. This is how science is included in Vedanta. This is how Indian philosophy or Vedas can aid modern science. Because rishis were greatest scientists, greater scientists than any of the scientists that you know. This is not an observation made by me. It's an observation of Paul Deussen, a great German Indologist. You know, what did he say? What did Deussen say? Whatever may be the discoveries of modern science, none can dispute the buddhi of the Upanishadic seers. This is the observation. Whatever may be the discoveries of modern science, none can dispute the buddhi of the Upanishadic seers. When Upanishadic seers say something, it is irrefutable, undeniable, indisputable, unquestionable. This is the caliber, this is the reputation of the people that created Upanishads. And you know, in Amarakosha, a beautiful treatise, small treatise, that is required to be read through or studied through for anyone who wants to make a serious study about Indian mythological lore, makes a mention to the effect that Agastya was a test tube baby. We don't know anything of these things. Sanatana Dharma is this, Sanatana Dharma is that. That needs to be eradicated, that needs to be eliminated. You have a treasure of sciences in Sanatana Dharma, by making use of which the condition of the whole humanity can be transformed to the most ideal condition. Revolutions can take place one after the other in the field of knowledge, in the field of modern science. We never turn our attention towards it. If you say Sanatana Dharma, what appears before us is just caste system, untouchability, as though nothing more is there in that Sanatana Dharma. And ironically, neither caste system nor untouchability has anything to do with Sanatana Dharma. Vivekananda made it very clear, extremely clear. 100 years ago he said, right from Buddha to Ram Mohan Rai, Observe this. Remember, Vivekananda is one person who is an out and out and the final authority on any subject pertaining to India. This is not again my statement. This is the statement of a person who for the first time got Nobel Prize in the whole Asia, Rabindranath Tagore. While talking to another Nobel laureate, two Nobel laureates are conversing with each other, and this is the transpiration that occurred between the two in Switzerland. Romain Rolland, a French novelist and a French Nobel laureate, met Rabindranath Tagore, the first Asian to get Nobel Prize. In the course of conversation, Romain Rolland expressed his desire to write a book on India. Already he had written the biography of Mahatma Gandhi. He wanted to write a book on India, for which he wanted the help of Rabindranath Tagore as regards the material wherefrom he could get all the relevant information about this great country. Rabindranath Tagore, without any hesitation, says, if you want to know India, study Vivekananda. We never study Vivekananda, and therefore we never know anything knowable, anything worth knowing about India. We study every other book. Today's history book in India is a bundle of trash that deserves only to be put into a dustbin, full of travesties of truth. That's what, right in the beginning itself, I said, there is no punishment for a person who ruthlessly kills truth. That is the basis and the substratum for the whole existence of the creation. Creation itself cannot exist if it is not supported by truth. What is the truth? Truth is the material. Truth is the beginning. Truth is the end. Truth is the in-between material for the whole creation, as has been declared by Taittiriya Upanishad. Ananda dhyeva khalvimani bhutani jayante ar yatova imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvishanti tat vijijnasasva tad brahmeti. The material from where the whole creation has come. Yatova imani bhutani. Bhutani means the objective world, the whole of the objective world. Yatova imani bhutani jayante. The whole of the objective world or creation is born from where? Has come from where? Has emerged from where? It resides where? It resides where? Yatova imani bhutani jayante. Yena jatani jivanti. Where from it receives the sustenance? Where from it receives its support and sustenance? Yena jatani jivanti. Yat prayanti abhisamvishanti. After its destruction, dissolution, where it goes to? All the three places, all the three things are one and the same. Tat vijijnasasva. Let us contemplate about that. Tat brahmeti, that is Brahman or truth. Truth and Brahman are the words that are synonymous. So truth is the fundamental material where from the whole creation comes, it gets itself sustained and goes back after the dissolution, but we are so careless about the accuracy of truth that we are trying to know about. Aryans come from this place, that place, Sanatana Dharma did this, did that. Have you ever bothered to know anything about that? Vivekananda became extremely furious at this, could not resist himself from making a statement which is of anytime relevance, eternal relevance, eternally relevant, which is of eternal relevance. What did Vivekananda say? From Buddha to Ram Mohan Rai, every reformer in India mistook Sanatana Dharma being responsible for all the ills of Indian society. From Buddha to Ram Mohan Rai, they all mistook Sanatana Dharma for the ills of Indian society, and to save India from the ills, to liberate India from all these ills, they wanted to totally eradicate Sanatana Dharma itself. Unless Sanatana Dharma is eradicated out, almost meaning the same thing that Udayanidhi Maran meant when he made that statement. We all have assembled here to discuss about the modus operandi for eradicating Sanatana Dharma from the shores of India. From Buddha to Ram Mohan Rai, they also committed the same mistake. They also thought on similar lines. They also tried on similar lines. Swamiji says, Vivekananda goes to say, every person mistook Sanatana Dharma as being responsible for the defects, the drawbacks that one can observe in Indian society and wanted to eradicate, totally destroy, blot out Sanatana Dharma from India, and fortunately they all failed. Underline that term, fortunately. Fortunately, they all failed. They all failed. Whosoever tries to eradicate Sanatana Dharma has to fail in the mission, has to make himself a laughing stock. Because it is the most ridiculous statement, most ludicrous effort that one can ever think of in the wildest of one's dreams. The most meaningless thing one can ever conceive. How at all you will remove the truth itself? How at all you can remove the basis of the existence of the creation itself? Then where will creation remain? This is how things are, but unfortunately people don't know. They cannot know about it. So, several such marvelous things are there lodged up in Sanatana Dharma. Agastya was a test tube baby. Only in 1970s, we got the news that in England, a test tube baby was born and so much hue and cry was raised about it. It was something very new, very much wonderful for those people who never knew anything about the past glory of India. For people that knew, that was not just a repetition of what Indians did. Several thousands of it. Remember, every milestone in modern science is just an echo of what Indians have done ages ago. Indians have done it ages ago. Vivekananda could observe it. William Jones could observe it. Fridtjof Capra could observe it. Remember, Fridtjof Capra and William Jones, they are not Indians, nor they are Hindus. Fridtjof Capra, the most popularly known scientist in today's times, who was a professor in Berkeley University, to meet whom I had been in 2008 to Berkeley University, but unfortunately the meeting could not be effected because I had gone out and I had not taken any prior appointment to meet him either. Fridtjof Capra has written a beautiful book which every Indian must go through to understand how at all modern physics is just an echo of our ancient observations. Tao of physics. There he says, the scale of this ancient myth means he refers to Indian wisdom. The scale of this ancient myth is indeed staggering. The wisdom of Indians is something marvelous, staggering. It has taken mankind more than 2000 years to come up again with similar concepts. It is not 2000 years, it is 10,000 years. For Fridtjof Capra, we did all these things after Buddha's advent, somewhere in the early part of before Christ era. No, we did all these things several thousand years before the advent of Buddha, at least 2000 or 3000 years before Christ. See the observation of this man. Is he a Hindu? Can you expect him to be a fanatic? Chauvinistic impulse is the one that is working through him. Can you say like that? How at all he can be chauvinistic? The scale of this ancient myth is indeed staggering. It has taken mankind more than 2000 years to come up again with similar concept. Not only did he say that, he did say another sentence which is all the more interesting. He says, two of the milestones of modern physics, general relativity and quantum theory, are forcing everyone to look at the world in the way a Hindu or a Buddhist sees it. The whole Western world, it has to change its concept of world. It has to change its concept of lifestyle. It has to change its concept pertaining to human life on earth. What is the goal of life? And what should be the way for reaching that goal? All these important aspects of a successful human life will have to undergo a change because science is forcing the mankind to do it. General relativity and quantum theory, if you deeply observe them, make a study of them, they will change your whole outlook towards life. What is the significance of human birth right from there? How at all one can feel that sense of fulfillment at the end, at the time of his breathing is lost. Up to this point, from birth to death, you need to bring about radical changes in every concept that today you are adhering to. Otherwise, you will remain a person who has no semblance of wisdom either. Because quantum physics and general relativity, they are imposing these modifications on you. They are forcing you to do it. That is the term that he has used it. They are forcing us. Two of the greatest milestones in modern physics, general relativity and quantum theory, are forcing every man to change the way, to change his view towards life. To change his views according to how a Buddhist or a Hindu sees it. You have to adopt a Hindu way of life. We have to adopt the way that a Hindu uses for looking at the world. How a Hindu views the world. How a Buddhist views the world. You have to fall in line. This is being said by the professor of modern physics and the author of the book, author of the book Tao of Physics, Fritjof Capra.